Hello everyone, my name is Muir, and this is Starsector version 0.96a-RC10. And this is the demonstration of the Frigate level combined arms fleet. So what we have here is our combined arms Wolf, our combined arms Vanguard, combined arms Gremlin, and combined arms Drone Tender. I won't really be showing their builds right now, that's what the videos are for, if you want to check those out. As we can see here, we are up against about the same amount of deployment points worth of stuff. I have not ran this in a simulator. I have not pre-simulated this because I am confident that it will do fairly well, but let's go ahead and look at the Wolf. So what should happen here is the Wolf will go in and it will disable some enemies and do some damage. The Vanguard will go in, use its missiles, and do a bunch of damage. The drones from the Drone Tender will come in and deal a decent amount of damage, and the Gremlin will cause a lot of chaos. Kind of what the Gremlin is for. Alright, as you can see, he's already getting EMP'd, and this guy's a little overcommitted, so he's going to start having problems pretty quickly. Now this guy is pretty much dead in the water, and he's going to be even more dead in the water very soon. So yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of options, and he's pretty much going to be dead very soon. So yeah, that's kind of how this works. The Wolf is controlling the fight right now, and allowing them to kill those enemies. So these guys are going after the drones from the Drone Tender, which is perfectly fine for us. There's this lasher here, and they are going to just gradually kill that guy off. Now this Gremlin is not using his phase for some reason. I don't know why he's not, but he's not. What we have is these guys trying to use their salamanders. There we go, he used that to dodge. I think the changes to phase ships have made them act more like brawlers. But we are slowly clearing out the enemy fleet without any major problems. And really the EMP is just going to make it where these guys can't really do anything. Especially once the damage starts coming in. Now, the thing about this build is that it is very much dependent on the missiles doing the heavy lifting here. So the Vanguard has a decent amount of physical damage. His lasers can be used to attack, but generally they aren't. And but the EMP is predominantly what is going to allow them to just stomp enemies into the ground. So as you can see here, this slasher just couldn't do anything. So as a recap, the Wolf disables things. The Vanguard and the Drone Tender support the Wolf in killing enemies, and the Gremlin sort of just does whatever it wants. So what happens when we expand this a little bit? What happens when instead of it being somewhat limited, we instead push it to... What happens when we throw it up against a much larger foe? So again, we have about 16 points being used. So let's go for around that if we can. Let's go ahead and go with one of these. I don't know how this is going to play out, but they should do an okay job. The main thing will be getting its shields down, but its shields do not completely cover it. So that could still work in these frigates' favors. They just need to start EMPing it with the Wolf, and then the fight will be over somewhat soon once that happens. The Gremlin is probably going to be what causes a lot of the mayhem here, if it actually goes in there and causes that mayhem. If it doesn't, then this will just be a stalemate. Normally by the time you start fighting these guys, you're going to have more ships. But he's got his graviton beam in there. It is doing quite a bit of damage. The Wolf does not want to commit to a fight. And what we would see here is this is a cruiser, if I remember correctly, so it isn't really all that fair for this little group. But none of them are dead. The drone tender is barely damaged, so it's not that bad. And if we were to do something like take control of the gremlin, it might... or if we were to give it a different order. So let's say we take the gremlin and we tell it to exterminate. It will become a lot more aggressive. It will try going around this and harassing it a little bit more. But that also means it has a higher chance of getting killed, because nothing really wants to commit to fighting it. So this is where you, once you're starting to fight cruisers, you would want to start fighting, you'd want to start using at least destroyer level stuff. If we compare this fighting something else, and plus you just have a whole lot more of them. So the good part about destroyer level is that you can have, about frigate level, is that you can have just a lot of these guys. As many of these as you can fit in to your fleet have, so you could have 5 squads, 6 squads if you want, and then have some support ships to have supplies, crew, and fuel. And these guys would be able to do quite a bit of damage that way. But if we throw them up against something else that has quite a bit, we might say one of these, a Venture. Venture is another cruiser. And the ships do seem very timid. This gremlin's going around towards the back, so maybe he can cause some problems for this Venture. We do have our small drones over there that will hopefully go in for the kill to a little bit. And we already see some EMP is starting to hit this guy, which is nice for us, because ultimately that's what we want to see. Because the moment he gets fully EMP'd, we already see he's starting to overload. The Venture is not really intended to be a ship that is going to be able to range people out. It's kind of just a flying brick of armor, and that's about it. Okay, so he's kind of just dead in the water at this point. So what it's really going to boil down to is, can he get enough lucky shots before he dies? And I'm thinking the answer is probably no. Now keep in mind, by the time you start, this is a great fleet for taking out low-end pirate fleets. At least the small ones that you can fairly easily take out. And the swarmer missiles that we're using on a lot of these, those per slot, those do more overall damage than they do about twice the damage of a Reaper. So they're pretty good at what they do. And he's making the fatal mistake of targeting the gremlins. Ooh, man, that wolf almost got creamed by a harpoon. But yeah, very slowly he's going to start dying. He can't get rid of his hard flux, so this is an incredibly one-sided fight for just a little bit more deployment points. He's starting to waste his missiles, hoping that he can do something. But yeah, this is something that will very gradually just clear out a whole lot of enemies. But yeah, if we had more squads of these guys, they would do an even better job of clearing these dudes out. So there is that. So again, you can have like 5, 6 squads of these in the early game very easily. And yeah, they actually do a really good job, a really effective job in the early game before you transition to destroyer level, where you pick up the destroyer combined arms ships. You'll still probably be using vanguards if you haven't upgraded to monitors yet. You might still be using gremlins if you haven't tried to upgrade to shades or afflictors. And if you have any of these left over, like, you can still use those. So you don't have to completely get rid of your frigate fleet when you go to destroy it. You can just start weaving them in. Because again, they're their own little squads that are kind of self-contained. And if a unit gets destroyed, like for some reason you have to leave a drone tender behind, no problem, you just replace it. And if you find a destroyer level ship for the carrier, and you can use that instead of a drone tender. And it works just fine. The only problem is it might be a little bit slower than the drone tender, so it might struggle to keep up with the wolf. But yeah, that's about it. That's a quick little demonstration of how this fleet setup sort of works with combined arms. The combined arms comes from using phase ships, tanking ships, warships that do not tank very well, and carriers. And this is the smallest quote-unquote carrier that you can get. But alright, everyone. My name is Muir. This has been a quick little demonstration of frigate level combined arms. I'll catch you guys later. Bye, everyone.